the heart of the matter. Let's talk about the course itself. First of all, this is where I'm located in Cavanaugh Hall on campus, room 210. This is my email address. This is my office phone number here and my cell number here. Should you need to get in touch with me, we will also be communicating extensively using the Remind.com app. So you'll have instant access to me either by texting my cell or using the Remind app, or you can email me. Sometimes it takes a little longer because I don't check it all the time. Okay, the course itself will focus on providing a model for the practitioner teacher in reading text and search for authors' intended meanings. This is going to be something that we will focus on. And because I'm a science guy, we're going to use the latest edition of a very popular biology text to do this modeling, and the scripture, since I have some Old Testament Hebrew background. We'll use that also as a model for asking questions about the author's intended meanings of these texts. All right, so you're wondering what that has to do with significance. So this statement summarizes it for you. Here's the theme. In order for education to have lasting significance and value, it should facilitate the learner's quest to know what is true. So some of you can see where this is going. And so let's just be very straightforward about where the course is going. You will learn a little bit as I go through the science, reading the science book with you. You'll learn a little bit about my work over the past couple of years. Actually, this coming fall, like 2 years ago, I started working on the steering committee for the rewrite of the Louisiana Science Standards. And so that work has facilitated much, and really it will be unavoidable in talking about the development of these education standards in this course. And you'll hear a little bit more about the reading of science textbooks and some of the work that I did with that committee. So this is not a focus on what I've done. This course is really a focus on modeling a system of reading textbooks, reading literature in order to try to determine what a particular author's intended meanings are, and then to be able to think critically about how those authors have presented things. Of course, the trouble with reading science in a course like this is many of you are not science educators. So there will be no expectation. I want to alleviate your concerns. No expectation whatsoever in this course for you to learn and regurgitate in testing any kind of science content. That is not the point of this. It's simply to provide a model for you in reading. I'm going to model in front of you with videos and comments, and then I'm going to ask you simply to write enough to tell me that you've heard what I've said, even though you may or may not understand it, and then to make comment about it. Okay, so you can see here in the course content that we're going to talk first in this class about worldview presented in the textbook. This is the one that we use, and you'll see in the opening presentations, it's the most popular biology textbook on the market today. And so we're going to use it as part of our model. So this is going to be done in relationship to the Louisiana Science Standards. And we won't walk through all of them, obviously, but on the first one on embryology, and on the second to last one with the fossil record, I'm going to show you the performance expectation of the standard that all Louisiana science teachers are faced with. I'm going to offer you the textbook presentation, the author's intended meaning in presenting the evidence that has to do with worldview, with embryology content. And then as a final project for you, I'm going to ask you to take the standard and word it how you think it should have been worded. Now, this is something that I did with the Science Standards Committee, and you can probably imagine if you've worked with administrative folks in the education world and other teachers in your area trying to word things properly. It's not an easy task. And so I'm going to ask you just to take the performance expectation and word it. If you think the wording's fine, that's okay too. But I have some suggestions that I'll make, and so it just becomes a thought project for us in thinking about education standards and thinking about the way textbooks present worldview information for students. And of course, from my perspective, all of this should be done in an effort to have some lasting significance and value to help learners learn what is true. And so, in my opinion, a good educator should be able to objectively present multiple sides of arguments, especially in relationship to worldview. And so this will come out as we go through the science. Here are the content areas that we'll go through and the science stuff. And please, once again, don't get yourself worked up over having to learn all of the science. This is a project where you're going to watch the modeling and see what people are saying, and then in just a couple of cases here you're going to be suggesting wording. All right, so after we've done all of that worldview stuff in the world of education standards, we'll turn our attention to the biblical record as a model, focusing mostly on the books of Genesis to Kings, and talking about worldview presented in the scripture. And we'll keep asking the same question over and over again. What is the author's intended meaning? Now, so we'll start this project by talking a little bit about what the Bible actually is, specifically in reference to the Old Testament. But of course, New Testament stuff will come up as we're reading it. And then we're going to start asking, very specific questions on how to read these things, talking about the original languages and things. And so I'm going to make some suggestions on how to read. Reading biblical text is oftentimes not an easy project, but it's a worthwhile project. And I think what will come out of it, what you will hear from me coming out of this is a kind of worldview that the biblical authors present. And so the course is designed from my perspective ultimately to compare and contrast similarities and differences between the worldview of modern science and the worldview of Scripture. But we won't talk much more about the science stuff as we're going through the Bible things, just because there's so much to be said about the structure and themes of the biblical text, especially when done so through the lens of reading in the original languages. All right, so some of you are saying, "Oh my goodness!" So don't panic on me. Let me tell you how this is going to go. So obviously, I'm going to want you to think about authors' meanings when they write. That's a big objective for the course. We're going to be using a couple of software internet sites. I'm going to show you those here in just a minute. Turnitin is going to be very important for us. We're going to talk about developing techniques for reading text, and so things that we think about in reading biology text, things that we think about in reading Scripture are, there's some common things there. Reading for determining authors' intentions. What are they trying to say? All right, now, with each of these, I'm going to ask you to write reflections, but I'm not going to talk about the details here just yet of the grading of the course. Give me just a minute and I'll do that. I'll show you the rubric that I'll use to grade your work. The final thing will be to write a paper for the course, and I'm going to say we'll count for 15 points each. For each session, the student must write reflections, opinions, and answers to the questions embedded in the presentation. Each session response must be typed, single space, on a single sheet of paper, approximately 600 words. That's about 12 font, single space on a single page, 500 or 600 words for each response. So this is what I want to read from your writing, a single page, single spaced, about 600 words. Here's the rubric that I will use to grade. The science sessions will be graded. The first 5 points you receive will simply be evidence that you watched the video. I have to know that you've heard what I've said. Now, this is obviously not going to require that you know all the science, but you need to take some notes and determine, help me know that you've seen the videos that I've asked you to watch as part of the science sessions. The second thing will be the answers to the embedded questions. This is the bulk of the points here. So I basically, at the end of this session, I'm going to say things like, what is the author's intention? What is the objective? Is the presentation objective or is it not? Why do you think so? Why do you not think so? And the answers to those will be intuitive within the video sessions. And I'm really not interested in you regurgitating all the things that are said by the authors. I'm really more interested in you saying, this is what I heard this author say, I agree with him. This is what I heard this author say, I agree with him, and here's why. So those are the kinds of things, and those will be embedded in each of the videos that I'll make available to you. So here's how I'll grade those, 5 and 10. Now the Bible sessions we'll do, again, I need to have some evidence that you've watched the video. So the first 5 points will be, yep, I can see they've watched the whole video. And then thoughtful reflection and opinion about the content. So students ask me sometimes, what do you mean thoughtful reflection, opinion about the content? You'll hear me saying it all the time in the videos. Tell me what you think. I want to read what your opinion is about this. So that's really the point of all of these, to have you guys give some thoughtful reflection on what the author's intentions are. Are we onto something here in learning what the author's intentions are in the composition of the books of the Old Testament scriptures? So one of the sessions is on the Garden in Eden. I've blocked out the session because those numbers are changing. And this one is one on the Garden of Eden. This says the Garden in Eden. That'll be interesting, so listen for that. And you can see here a student has written some reflections here. And so I put this up here as a type of a model. This is the way a student, you see my thoughts on the significance probably aren't what you were intending with your session, but I personally feel, so this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for in your response. Share your opinion with me. That's the point. Get full credit. Your opinion does not have to be my opinion, right? The purpose of this is to express yourself and your own opinions. I will not deduct points for your opinions that are different from mine. That is not the point of this class, for me to indoctrinate you with my opinion. Now, it's going to be unavoidable. You're going to hear my opinions as part of this, but it's certainly not required that you have my opinion. In fact, it helps me to grow to hear your opinion. So that's really the banter back and forth in this class. A paper has to be done demonstrating the ability to reflect on the concepts learned during this class. The paper will be a final 50-point grade. The paper must be at least 1,000 words. So what's that? Just barely 2 pages, right? Single space typed, again, presented on turnitin.com. And the paper needs to, here are the 3 parts I'm looking for. A narrative detailing the influence of the people who have shaped your world. This is a very meaningful experience for me in this course, to learn about what your thinking about worldview has been shaped from. People share things about their family and their, what they've been through in their lives. I've learned some of the most remarkable things about what people have experienced in their lives. I wish I could share all of these that I've with all, we can share with each other these things, but this is I really look forward to reading these. Um, how you developed your own worldview. That's really what I want to know. And then um, part 2 of the paper, I want to know what are some, just a couple of things that you've picked up in the course that that you feel like are significant. Um, what is significant about the stuff you learn in the education standards? What's significant about the composition of the Tanakh to you that you didn't know before? So, just things that you picked up that you feel are significant about ED 601 that may have had some impact or disturbed or caused you to ponder worldview things. So if it's been of some benefit to you, great. Or if it's been just simply irritating, you can say that as well. And then I always like to make changes in the course each time I do it based on what you think could have been done better. All right, so that is the coverage of the syllabus and what the course expectations are for ED 601. So you will proceed to the coursework of the course to see your grades as you do each of these sessions, and you will go to the resources page on the portal where you will find the videos for each session to watch. And you'll just start with session 1 and go right through the course. The due dates for each session will be listed with them. And so you'll be watching sessions and writing your reflections and turning them in through Turnitin. And I will be sending you feedback through Remind so that we can keep the conversation going.